Shalom, family. Peace. Excuse me. Oh, wow. So we had everybody on. All right. Briefly. Everybody can see and hear me all right. I apologize. I thought we were on all platforms. TikTok wasn't on, my bad. But anyways, hopefully all is well. Prayerfully everybody can see and hear me all right. I'm going to be real quick. I was technically not supposed to come back on until tomorrow, but the word must go forth, and we're asking that you guys keep our dear Elder Tamara in prayer. Thank you to everybody who's been making sure the ship's been running and been showing up to everything like we're supposed to, regardless of who's in front. And I thank the ministerial staff for stepping up big time. Heard great things about the men's meeting, or at least I read in text messages great things about the men's meeting. Seems like ministerial prayer went all right. The podcast, I was listening into the podcast, great work. The live session on yesterday with Elder Tamara. Those who stepped in, Minister Smith and Ray stepped in during the week for the live session. The Night Start Live on Thursday night was done by Minister Akita. So just great stuff. And thank you guys. We appreciate you. Those Shabbat school did happen. It seems like there was some confusion with that. We said recording now for those that are in England. So seems like everything's on the up and up, going the way it's supposed to. So we had a little bit of confusion with Shabbat school, but even with that, we still had a great turnout by the end. So thank you all for being on. Very much so appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and get started. I apologize about being late. Partially, I was late because something weird was going on with the key, so I had to set up. I had actually poured something for myself to drink, and I realized I didn't bring it outside or bring it still in the room. So I was like, well, I'll just run up and grab something to drink, and first thing I see and come back down to make sure I got something for some kind of hydration or some kind of, liquid refreshment, etc. And then I couldn't get back out. It wasn't letting me pass. Like there's like 2 or 3 doors I had to go through to get all the way out here, and I couldn't get out here. So anyways, thank you all. We appreciate you. Thank you for all the Born Day wishes, by the way, for Elder Alma. Very much so appreciated. She's probably today going to be reading through, and we're going to go through all the stuff we can find, and everybody that said shalom. So if you don't get a personal thank you, she thanks you. She's thankful for each and everybody who sent something out, sent love, sent text, sent a gift of any kind, whatever the case might be. Thank you so much for taking care of her, looking at one of your sisters, and somebody who, for me, especially my wife, and deciding that she was worthy of being able to give a little something to. So, Tadah, my Shabbat, thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. It's going to be quick today because it still is technically supposed to be my day off and it's family day on top of that, but it's still Elder Alma's Born Day weekend, so we're still celebrating and going to have to get ready to do a little bit of travel to get where we need to pick some stuff up before we go to do the last bit of stuff for the day. So, Tadah, Masha Pahe, thank you everybody for being on. We appreciate you. We're excited to be here with you guys, and thank you so much. Oh, Khalil Akbar, which is probably somebody who has using some kind of, whatever for your picture, racist stuff. That's great. That's actually going along right with what we're going to talk about today. So, we'll go ahead and, report you or whatever, and let everybody know, that you're promoting hate speech and all that stuff. But, hey, do what you do. If you're probably not allowed on anymore, but do what you do. So, anyways, thank you for being on TikTok, being on with us on Facebook, being on with us on YouTube, and any other platform that you might see this later on. We appreciate you. I thank you so much for being on with us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I apologize once again for running late. It wasn't even supposed to be on today, but we're making sure that we still have the word go forth. Let's go ahead and start from the jump. And if you'd like to actually see what we're about, stick around long enough and you'll be able to find out. But let's go ahead and get in this quick message. I'm going to get out your way. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer. It is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osayana Kitabuya, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Ugwan, Onson, Nabarigani, Akuaba, Madase, Etise, Jambo, Mibini Kofi, Jennifer Akukutana Mwewe, Bokuto, Bokuta, Grand Rising, Bakwata, Barakala Chem Yahaba, Anai Kovai, Killa to Seven to Christ, Marshall Akhi. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Seven to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Appreciation. How's everybody doing? We thank you for being on with us. We give our honor and praise once again to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him, to my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life to say to be honored. I'm making a surprise appearance one day early. We're supposed to be back till tomorrow, but it is what it is. It will not be the full 2.5, 3 hour thing that we normally do on Sunday, and even go a little over. It will be quick, fast, and a hurry comparatively. We'll probably do 30 minutes to an hour somewhere in there. But just got a quick message for you all, and then I shall see you guys again tomorrow after early rising Bible study session. And thank you, everybody who's been doing everything in a great fashion, even in my absence. Prayerfully, you guys have been taking advantage of the text streams. Don't forget, we got text streams for the regions now, so you can reach out to one another, check in with one another, ask if anybody needs help, exchange numbers, call, Bible studies, meet up. We can do all this stuff, whether I'm there or not, or whether I'm the person putting in, or even if you're not the main person who's supposed to contact. We all have the ability to get somewhat, of most of the persons in our area. So hopefully you guys have been taking care of that and doing that and being obedient with that. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to shalom to everybody. We're going to jump right in. How you doing, Brother TJ, Minister Tracy, Elder Anais, Sister Beck, Davey, Cole, Brother Dwayne, Sven, and everybody on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Appreciate you. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. Okay, all right. How's everybody doing? Sorry, we got a bunch of platforms trying to make sure we're doing everything correctly. Let's see. How you doing, Jesse, Danny, Meek Mo, Fish Out of Water, big Brother Thomas. Hopefully you're feeling better. How you doing? Using 997-343-033622. Ukami, Tesawai, Bria, Big Glow, Brian, Melchizedek 144, okay. Sherelle, Rodney, Takeoff Podcast. What you walking on, you don't know yet. if you stick around, you probably find out, or you can just ask what we're talking about when we get into the subject matter. Let's see. Sister Joy, G, Therese, is it? Therese, please forgive me. How you doing? Press for Purpose. Thanks for being part of the community. Shalom, shalom, etc. Thank you for being on, no matter which dialect you're speaking today. I'm on. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, I appreciate you all for being on. Thank you for being on today. If you like the fit, of course, check out Brother Jermaine and what he's doing. Salah, pause and think about it. Okay, you can pause and think about it. Praise y'all. So today, like I said, I wasn't supposed to be back till tomorrow. We were supposed to have somebody else preaching today, but I do have a quick message for you, relatively speaking. Today, so let's go ahead and get into it. We do something here called our Bible pledge. So if you want to repeat after me, you can. Just, we ask that you put your device or your Bible, your right hand in the air, just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. But this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Atsham Yehavah. Aman. Which in Yehavah Shem, his name is authority, let it be done unto us. You may be seated to go back to what you were doing in the presence of Yah. If you're somebody who's new to the Bible pledge, you're like, that doesn't make sense. You said no sword of God shall ever be heard. We don't worship God, and we're talking about literally, right, as far as denotation of the word. God in Hebrew, or what you call Gad, right? God in Hebrew literally is one of the children of Israel, one of the 12 sons of Israel, right? And so we don't worship him. We say Elohim, or what everybody says Elohim. That's what we're talking about. So just in case you've never heard that before, or that like through a monkey wrench or something, that's what we're talking about. And how you doing, big brother Charles? Alrighty. So, but today we're going to talk about something specific, right? And then we'll go ahead and get out of your way. We want to focus on the theme for today, which is seeing past does not mean we cannot see. Seeing past. I might have even, maybe I should have said it like this. Seeing past something doesn't mean we do not see it, right? But seeing past, right? Looking past, seeing past does not mean that we do not see, right? How you doing? Uh, um, sorry, Akhe Yachasab or Ak Yachasab. How you doing? How you doing, Sister Sheeny? Right? Hopefully everybody's doing well. So as we were saying today, looking past, right, or seeing past doesn't mean we cannot see. Seeing past does not mean we cannot see. So put it like so. One of the things that happens a lot in excuse making for allowing akhira or evil, iniquity, lawlessness to continue. One of the excuses that's used constantly and consistently is, oh well, um, why can't you just look past it? Or some person saying, I can't look past it. I can't look forward until I look past until we get rid of this. So one of the things that allows evil to permeate and to be extremely ubiquitous in the fabric of society is the fact that persons try their best to say, well, look past it. Or they try to say, I can't look past it, I got to focus on this. And it's become an argument. So I want to say it like this, the way I was led by Holy Spirit was, seeing past doesn't mean we cannot see. What do I mean? Okay. So somebody goes, why are you always talking about racism? That's one that pops up, right? If we say anything about true things that have happened in the story of mankind regarding colorism, racism, especially it contributed to chattel slavery, etc. Somebody's immediate response somewhere is usually going to be something like, oh, you can't look past that? But looking past it doesn't mean that I don't ever have to come back to it, right? So, yes, vision, if I want to look past something and live a life outside of racism, then yes, vision causes me to do that. But then you know what happens? That's a blueprint. When you write a blueprint or you have a vision for something, yes, you write what the ultimate goal is and how everybody's going to live inside the ultimate goal. But then you have to go back to where you are to begin to start the building process. So if I'm going to build, if I were to come out here and I say I want to build more onto this property, and how you doing, DMC, and how you doing, Angel Grace, JP, thanks for being part of the community. If I'm going to build something else on this property, how you doing, Money Green, and everybody coming in, Brother Dwayne, Cole, if I didn't say so already, right? So if I'm going to build something else and add on to where I am, if I wanted to build a foundation, then I have to deal with what's here. I can't build a foundation, right, on top of this. Some of this behind me would have to go, right? If I didn't make sure that I built something, if I'm going to build something, I have to deal with the environment. If I want to build something, I would have to have somebody come out here and look at water levels. Somebody would have to come out here and survey for different things, correct? Somebody would have to come out here and say, okay, if we're going to dig, this is what it's going to be, and this is how much it's going to cost. So in order for me to look past it, I have to have a vision to see something past what's here and see the changes that are coming. But then at some point, I have to go back to where I am, and I have to begin to change. Does that make sense? Right? Like if I'm going to see past or have vision past just what I see, at some point I have to start in a place to where we have to have a conversation about what's there, right? And all the stuff, in the blueprint, part of the blueprint is talking about even foundation. In the blueprint, if we know this was going to look like, and we know how many pounds, we know who's going to be in there, we know what kind of, we even have to account for clothing, furniture, food, etc., that might make its way in, right? That's why even when you go in places, there are limits to how many persons can be in certain rooms or in elevators and things like that. All of that is taken into account as far as foundation, etc., all those things. So before I can build, I have to imagine what's coming. But also, once I imagine what's coming and I have a whole outline for it, a blueprint for it, then I have to go back and begin to build towards what I saw. So anybody who says, why are you looking at racism, right, look past it, you don't recognize that even if I look past it, to live in a vision that I'm not prepared to build towards, it's foolish, right? It's a book. And by the way, can you guys hear and see me okay? Excuse me, I should have said that earlier. Mic check, 1, 2. And how you doing, Ty Webb? Thanks for being part of the community. Everybody see me and hear me fine? Yes, no, maybe so. TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Can everybody see and hear me okay? Prayerfully so. Yep, okay. No lagging, no skipping, all that. Shalom, Akid Renee. How you doing, Sister Renee? All right. Okay, clear? Okay, cool. So yeah, so a lot of persons miss that. And okay, CTE awareness. I'm on. All right. I'm with it. So you hear what I'm saying? Hey, bless you. Yeah, long time no talk to you. Hopefully all is well. So you have this weird thing where somebody wants you to conceptualize and recognize and visualize and have a vision even of something to come. But then they say, don't pay attention to what needs to change in order for you to live what you see. So it's foolishness or it's a fairy tale. They're in essence telling you they want you to live in a fairy tale situation because even in fairy tales, somebody got to die or something has to go. Somebody's got to fight a dragon, you know. The Wicked Witch of the West got to have a house dropped on her or something. You know what I'm saying? Like something's got to change. Something's got to happen in order for us to get to what we see. But so when anybody's teaching this, I don't care what color they are. They can be black, white, whatever adjectives you want to give, Hispanic, Asian, Shwe, Ashanti, Yoruba, Niger, et cetera, right? At the end of the day, and the Kitawaya, et cetera. At the end of the day, if you cannot tell me, right, like what we need, or if you're not willing to put in the work as far as what needs to happen to get to what you saw in the blueprint, then you're basically you're living a lie. I won't say you're a liar because maybe somebody's not conceptualized or contextualized or thought about what I'm saying specifically, but you're living a lie if you believe that you're going to look past something and never have to revisit it. So let's keep it in the ballpark. I'm gonna try to be as friendly as I can, and who knows? And how you doing, Minister Keith? If I didn't say so already. Once again, thank you for Thursday evening, right? Um, and Minister Raj, our two new ministers, they were all over the place. Had their fingerprints on everything this weekend. Praise God for this last 4 days. Um, but you know, a lot of persons, have an issue with this, and some persons don't like it when you talk about racism at all and different things of that nature. It is what it is. It is what it is. But I'm gonna tell you, in all honesty, in all sincerity, you have to be willing to have a better conversation. And TikTok, you're gonna pause just for a second. Um, but you're gonna have to be willing to have better conversations. Am I Hebrew? Yes, I'm a Hebrew and I'm an Israelite by blood, by DNA, all that. Even modern Jews have to talk about who I am. All right, but that being said, or have to admit who I am. That being said, you know, um, well, yeah, I don't know what else, but the focus for today is speaking on even all the stuff where we don't want to admit the atrocities that have been done and how everybody had to been taught about racism. See, one of the things that happens is we had this conversation. Everybody wants to pretend that if we talk about racism, that we're only talking about black folk and how they've been messed up and marginalized. But you have to destroy the morality of everyone in order to have everybody flow through slavery, chattel slavery, right? You have to like we can't ignore that. We can't ignore the reality that you got to flow through, right? You got to realize that everybody's what is morality had to be changed in order to allow chattel slavery to be in existence, and you have to go back even past the numbers that they're telling you. We have to be honest about the fact that, hey, if you're talking about racism, by the way, ISM on the word, that suffix makes it a system, and race is a competition. So this system of competition, considering certain persons to get a pass or to get an opportunity to be in front, has been in existence, and you got to go back to the 1300s. If you're talking about chattel slavery, like as far as Eurocentric chattel slavery, you got to go back to Greece if you want to talk about, hey, it's as simple as those who are in ruling powers and stuff like that, they want to say that because they have blonde hair and blue eyes, that's not a new thing. You could have a dark-skinned person with blonde hair and blue eyes and say because of that, my family's better than you. Or what about if you go back to places like India? You know, those four different sects, sects, those four different sects they had, and then they added a fifth one, right? When the English came, the English just simply came and said, hey, man, make sure you put them dollars in there, those untouchables. Make sure that they are there, and make sure you base it off the color even more, right? This thing is a very long conversation, and it hasn't changed because we won't talk about the fact that some of those things are still there. We haven't built anything that that causes us to eradicate what was there. Once again, if I'm going to build a building here, I would have to build a foundation. That means that as pretty as some of this stuff is, if I wanted this to be a foundation, I would have to get rid of what you see, right? And so some persons want to see the old behind you exist, but don't want to talk about if we're going to build towards something else new, right? If we're going to see past the vision is the blueprint. Once the blueprint is agreed upon, we got to decimate some of what was there in order to allow what's coming to exist. I'm sorry, you said you believe that America doesn't focus on it because they don't want accountability to be established. Well, that, and also too, if we be honest, America, United Kingdom, France, Portugal, um, we don't want to talk about so-called because this word is too loosely put out there, but Arabic persons, um, even persons who now say they're Coptic and they're not. That's a whole thing that persons don't even study as far as what you now call Egypt, right? Who are the Kemetic persons? Where are they in Egypt? Who are the Cushitic persons? Eritrea, right? Ethiopian, South Sudanese, so-called Middle Easterns, some of the black Iraqi persons. Like this thing goes deeper. What about looking at so-called black history in Japan and all these different? Like, are we going to have conversation? We don't want to have a conversation about it. And what's happened is this, and I get it. It's not the only thing that's happened, right? Just like there's male versus female, and y'all are fighting about do you need men? Do you not need men? Do you need women? Do you not need women? I get it. There's other stuff. There's stuff as far as sexual perversion, which, to be honest, is worse than the racism. Is worse than the racism that many of us live in. It is, right? Right. We don't want to have that discussion either because everybody's allowed to be free in sexuality, not realizing that their promiscuity has actually become something that, gets you away from, like we were talking about earlier, as far as accountability. How you doing, Sister Carla? That caste system, yeah, thank you. How you doing, Storm? How you doing, Tabitha? Right? How you doing, Bruder Richard? So we don't, and I'm sorry, how long has slavery been around worldwide? It's been around for quite some time. Anybody who was a slave owner, all of them are evil, even if they persons that come out of my branch or my people in my nation. So once again, saying that I would excuse something, like, okay, let's put it like this. Because even though this is a lie, but let's go ahead and go with the lie that person said. You know that they teach you guys, see, this is what I'm talking about. Just because I can see past something doesn't mean that I shouldn't see something, right? Like if I'm riding in my car, I might see past the car in front of me, but if I were to pretend that car wasn't there, I'd cause an accident. So this is where the accidents happen. This is when the pileups happen. This is when we can't have conversation that helps us to heal and move toward what the Most High really wants for us, right? So when somebody goes, how long has slavery been around? Let's use something that y'all like to use. Once again, I told you sexual promiscuity is even worse, but y'all don't want to go to these places and talk about morality. So let's deal with something. They tell a lie, and they say this. They say the oldest profession to ever exist is prostitution. That's what they say. Just a lie, but that's what they say. And they do that so that you can go ahead and be softened up and eventually say, I don't want to slut shame when somebody's out, at all these ranches in Las Vegas and all these places that you go around the world and you go to Dutch places and stuff like that are allowing this stuff to be right in front of you or whatever, and you can go to the red light district. Y'all want to go ahead and have excuses so you cannot have your morality checked or morality checked, because it's your morality, so that's why you're getting away with it, because you don't want to actually be held accountable to something greater than yourself. But long story short, that lie is, oh yeah, prostitution is the longest existing, whatever, the longest existing job, longest existing career choice, whatever they want to call it. That's what they say. How you doing, Ernest? Shalom. Now that we put that out there, if prostitution is the longest existing thing, some of you, because of your morality, right, I'm not here to tell you whether you're wrong or right. Y'all should know my belief system on that already. That's right, but I'm just talking about the point. Some of you, profession, okay, the longest profession. Some of you, if you found out that your child was a prostitute, would you have a problem with it? Or if your child was a 2-year-old, found out what a prostitute, or a 4-year-old, 5-year-old found out what a prostitute was, or at least heard the word prostitute, came to your dad, Mom, what's a prostitute? Would you explain to them all the ins and outs of it, and would you tell them, hey, you know what? I'd love for you to take on that profession. Let's keep it a buck. Many of you would not. Matter of fact, many prostitutes would not want their children. I'm not saying they're zero, but let's be honest. Many prostitutes, right, would not want their children to be prostitutes. There are many persons not trying to once again do what y'all call slut shaming. We're just having honest dialogue with somebody who's spoken to these persons and has helped some of these persons to come. Because they believe they need to come out of this stuff, so we help them come out of some of this stuff, right? If you deal with somebody who's on the pole, many of those sisters and brothers who be on that pole, if you were to ask them, do you want your child to be on the pole? Guess what they would say? You think they would say yes? Right? Many of the persons who are out there who are PIMPs, right? Read the book called PIMP by Iceberg Slim and look at his writing and see if he would want his children to not only want to be like him, see if he would want his children to know that he was a PIMP. I know the glass bottom shoes with the fishing and everything was cool to certain persons, but once you get to a certain age, that's you realize the older you get, the more. How you doing, Sister Deborah? And thank y'all for the love. The older you get, the wiser you get. You realize a lot of that stuff was dumb, was foolish, and they put on something to mess you up, right? So anybody who's out here pimping, I would tell you you're wrong. And if somebody were to say, well, prostitution is the oldest profession, so that means pimping wasn't that far from it. It doesn't matter. Just because it was older doesn't mean it's now more okay. So that's a weird argument when persons bring that up. But that's why I said, just because I can see past doesn't mean we cannot see. How you doing, right? A lot of persons want you to have this thing because you have a vision past something doesn't mean until once again I can't build what's on the blueprint if I don't first deal with the ground. I can't deal with the blueprint if I don't first deal with the trees. I can't start building if I don't first deal with the fact that I might not even have the materials to build. And this is when it becomes difficult conversation for many. Because for a lot of you, and thank you moderators, I see, for a lot of you it's going to be difficult to have an actual conversation about the truth. How you doing, Shiver Bud? Right, for a lot of you it's going to be really difficult to have a conversation about the truth. Because in order to have a conversation about the truth doesn't mean that I look past what's in front of me. The truth means if I look past what's in front of me, I must then come back and eradicate what's preventing me from getting to the other side. Right? To know that there's glory on the other side of the brick wall and not decide how to get around it, under it, through it, right, or over it, doesn't make sense. You're getting baptized in an hour? Okay. Well, prayerfully, congratulations, and prayerfully you're willing. You know, baptism is boot camp. I know the other stuff, we teach that you go down to old man and you come back up, but Messiah, when he went down, he didn't go down a sinner. He went down and then came back up and then was led by Holy Spirit into the wilderness, right, to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And then after that, still fasting, then he was tempted 3 times. Then after that, he began to preach the word. After he came out of that and after the angels then helped him out. So just be ready for what you're signing up for. It's a great thing, but be ready to go ahead and live and die by it. Praise God, right? So, and how you do? Is it Cash Cox? Thanks for being on. So I'm trying to help persons to catch this and see, like, that a lot of persons are not connected. A lot of persons aren't catching this stuff. A lot of persons aren't even having the thought process because it's hard to talk about. The reason it's hard to talk about racism is because all of us have had dreams and visions. Some of us can't because some of us can't see it. But I think I'd say most of us, 90-something% of us, have been able to see, have thought about, what if I was in a society where there was no racism, whether you made everybody white, you made everybody black, you made it to where color didn't matter, whatever you say. But the problem is that, well, you live in a society that was built on racism. So if you don't dismantle what you are part of, or as we suggest and as the Bible suggests, just get up out of it, come out of it. Remember, coming out of the world, the word world, right, is the word in the Greek, at least, is the word cosmos with a K, right? K, not C, but Kosmos, right? And cosmos is really talking about a system. So when you see this word, especially in the so-called New Testament, when you see this word world, they're not talking about like what you guys think. We thinking, oh yeah, the physical. No, it's not the terra or the terraforming, right? This is a system. So a system that you're in, if it was built on a heavy systemic and systematic ploy called racism, you're not really going to get but so far if you don't deal with what you're in, or you don't release yourself from what you're in. How you doing, Miracle? Thanks for being on with us. Right? Shalom to everybody. Peace. Shan Shalom, or Yam Bet Shalom, whichever one you go on by, or whichever calendar. So we have the issue, and we just keep it a buck. Right? Vision, purpose, value, VPV, right? Um, we have an issue because a lot of persons keep talking about what they envision, which is faith. Have faith in what you envision, but then where are your works? Vision, right? Vision without action plan, or as we're going to start calling it soon, vision without a love plan, right? Is what? Those who plan, or those who fail to plan, do what? Y'all know that saying, right? Those who fail to plan to fail, right? Just like we talked about with Joseph in the Badashat series, right? Joseph had all this great stuff going on. Joseph does an amazing work. Joseph does a great job, all that stuff, right? Joseph is amazing. And how you doing, Cynthia, and everybody coming in? Remember me, everybody. So Joseph does amazing. Joseph is amazing. Joseph continued to be faithful even in all the stuff that happened to him. How you doing, Sister Taylor Shalom? Right? Joseph is on point with all of it. That being said, though, one of the things persons forget about Joseph is that Joseph got his position in Kemet, second in command of all of Kemet, or all of Israel. Why? Because he also planned. Yah didn't just give him the dream, the interpretation. He gave him a plan. He said, this is what you're going to need to do to get through this. And one of the things that we don't want to talk about is the plan. Right? What is the plan for getting out of racism? No, racism is bad. Okay, cool. What's the plan? No. Mistreating women is bad. Yeah. But what's the plan? No. Not allowing our brothers to grow and to become what they're supposed to. Yeah. But what is the plan? You know what I'm saying? What is the vision? What is the goal? What is the plan? What are the things that we're doing? Well, what's the plan? As far as if you're talking about scripturally, first thing first, you need to realize what a nation is. That's why we talked about that Badashat series from February 7th all the way through, what was it, February 7th all the way through August 12th, somewhere in there. August 11th, August 12th. That whole series that we did. Because the plan is to go back to in beginning. There's a family, right? There's a nation. You have to recognize nations are families. You guys have gotten used to nations are just where you're born. No, nations until like the 1940s, nobody cared about your birth certificate like that. And your birth certificate is a legal fiction. It's not you. When you go to trial, a lot of you don't even know you're not on trial. Your birth certificate's on trial. Your birth certificate is an artificial version of yourself. If you go ahead and give credence to your birth certificate and all that comes with it, then you go ahead and you're under an artificial corporation. Like, when people are talking about Washington, D.C., a lot of persons don't know Washington, D.C. is always under Congress. Congress cannot exist without Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. cannot exist outside of Congress. So, and by the way, I'm not that far from D.C., and I go through the DMV all the time, right? So, I live, main place that I live is in Baltimore. So, and all, so I'm very familiar with what's going on up there right now. Matter of fact, when I came down here, right, when we came down to celebrate my wife's born day weekend and stuff, we literally made sure we went as far away around D.C. as possible. and we'll keep doing that until you know. But a lot of persons don't catch that DC is always underneath Congress, right? Don't let the spoon taste fool you. All they did was they just made it plain in your face. So somebody's talking about when we need to get the army out of DC. Army's always in DC. Look up by law, DC, right? So like DC is a territory. It's not a because remember, United States is a corporation by United States Code USC 28 USC 300215 subsection A. United States is not a country; it's a corporation. So when you talk about the corporation of the United States, it doesn't have a capital; it has a territory. The territory is Washington D.C., and the territory was part of Maryland, part of Virginia. Virginia took its territory back. That's why it's not in the perfect square anymore. And so now what's left over, they can't get rid of it. Has no power outside of Congress, and Congress has no power outside of D.C., so they can't get rid of D.C., that territory. It's written in their code. So I'm saying all that to say, a lot of you are not even aware of the real versions of stuff that's going on. So how do you even begin to deal with Washington, Obelisk, D.C., Columbia on top of the Congress building, right, or the Capitol building, whichever one it is, right, and on the National Mall? You don't even know what that is. You don't even know what that means. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if somebody said, I see past it, you don't even realize what has to be crushed or what you have to come out of. Right? To talk about women needing to be treated better, you need to figure out how to make sure that families exist. Because real families don't exist. At least not as far as, hey, how you doing, Mr. Alton? Mr. Alton back on, praise y'all. I'm on. All righty. I'm excited. You know. But a lot of us are not there. How you doing, Long? Yeah, we were on the last few days. I just haven't been on. So make sure when I say even just I'm taking time off or something, 9 times out of 10, somebody's gonna be there to help us out. Praise God. Right? But we don't even recognize that it's familial. So if you're talking about the Bible, first of all, the Bible is not written to everybody or for everybody. It's written for believers of it. It's written for family members. And if you're not a family by blood, you can be married in or grafted in over time. And when you're grafted in, you give up who you were and become us. There is no dual citizenship. You're part of the kingdom or you're not. You're part of Israel or you're not. And if you decide by choice, right, to not be a part of it, that's not because you weren't given a chance. It's because you decided. And it gets real tough for persons, but they don't want to talk about what? Nationality. Nation building. Nationality is different. This is a nation. We're nation building. They'll try to make you feel bad about it because they want you to be America first, right? The way this works by law, it doesn't matter where you're born. It matters who you are born from. So if we're going to talk about the plan first of all starts with whose family are you part of, because every nation is a family. And you don't get this, but I'm here to tell you, 87%, or what is it, sorry. Well, it's fudged up a little bit. Let's just say the majority of persons and how they identify even. Because all politics are identity politics, so how does one identify, right? So the heavy majority of the United States of America identifies as something called white. Which means, right, and they also usually will hold the belief system of something called Christian. Even if they're not going to church, they hold so-called Christian values. This is a family. Whether you like it or not, this is a family. Right? If you go to Russia, right, there's different person, different kind of person, this and that, but they're Russian. It's a family. They look at it differently, as they should. Right? If you go to England, heavy majority is so-called white, and they come from certain persons and they have certain beliefs and they hold certain things to be their Protestantism. And if you're not Protestant, Protestant beliefs is what causes you guys to keep on going. They believe in a kingdom, although it goes through Parliament now, but that's what they're believing in. So you're talking about a family, right? You're talking about a family, and we don't talk about that as a family, right? If you're going to be, watch this, even if you're born again, this term, born again, one who is born again, what are you born into? What are you born from? In order for a baby to be born, right, and before somebody gets so spiritual that they can't contextualize something on a practical level, before we get so mystical, we're no longer practical. Let's deal with this. All right. Before we get so mystical, I don't mind the mysticism, but before we go there and don't realize how to make it practical, the spiritual, how to make it practical, when you go in, right? When you go in through the gates of heaven, guess what's on those gates? Guess what's on the side of those gates? Sorry to hear about that just looking, but we still praying for you. We praise y'all that you still covered regardless, right? Right? If we're talking about mysticism, right, or practicality, let's just talk about practicality. If right, some of you would say I'm talking about both, or whatever. If I'm going through the pearly gates, what's on the side of the pearly gates before I walk in? That's right, the names of the nation. Right, the names of the nations. Every nation. Right, of the 12. I'm on. Right. So if you go through those, if you go through those, you have to be authorized by name. Name means authority. Now, what's the other thing that you have to have as well in Revelation chapter 20, in verse 12? You have to do what's in the scrolls. If you don't do what's in the scrolls, then your name cannot be in the scroll of life. Guaranteed. Right? So, are you part of this family and this nation that lives by specific rules? Right? Our rules are not only based off of color. Matter of fact, they're not really based off of color at all, but we don't mind talking about it because part of talking about color or talking about colorism or racism and stuff are things that are in there. Even dealing with racism issues that we have, and if we're not careful, we will continue. They're in there. It's in the Bible. So for somebody to try to look past racism and say I won't deal with it, is for you to never get to a place without racism. Salah. And that, my brother, that my sister, is our biggest issue. Is not that racism exists; is that we don't want a place, or what? Sorry, we do not truly. I won't say we do not desire a place without racism, but we don't desire it to the level that we would actually deal with the racism. You see what I'm saying? Right? Like racism was bad when it was the Israelite who said the Samaritan ain't nothing but a dog. It was wrong. The Messiah showed us it was wrong. Peter showed us it was wrong. Paul showed us it was wrong. The Most High showed us it was wrong. Matter of fact, if you talk about prophets, when you talk about Balaam, he's Israel because he's grafted in, but he's not an Israelite. But he's still a prophet. Right? Brothers and sisters talking about, oh, you can't be a Levite and be speaking and preaching and prophesying. You know, Mariam or Mary or the Miriam that is the big sister of Moses. She's a prophet. You see, we won't dismantle the things that have caused you to not even look at the word properly. So you're trying to get to a better place, but how do you get to a better place or a higher place or a higher calling? And you can't, you're so busy looking past, which is great. Look past and see the vision where you're supposed to head, but then you don't to go, okay, I've got to deal with this thing that's here. If I'm gonna, once again, if I'm gonna build a building here, as nice as I might think everything in the background is, if the building's gonna be built back here, I have to begin to look at something as simple as a foundation. I have to look at what needs to be demolished. I need to look at what needs to be dug through. I need to be able to get past certain things. I have to start really envisioning what's going to be there, and then at some point I have to do the work to make what's envisioned manifest. How you doing, big bro? Right? So we're having a really bad conversation, beloved, because our thought process, our conversation has basically become based solely upon um, what I see coming, but not what I see that I need to get past, right? And I don't know if you would concede this, but prayerfully somebody would concede this. Prayerfully somebody would see this part in and of itself. I don't know if you will concede this, but there's a lot of stuff that we were taught that was wrong. And for a lot of us, that's the big issue. It's going to be difficult to have this conversation because we got to have a conversation about how much stuff we were taught that is wrong, right? But a lot of what we were taught, we've been taught a lot of wrong things about the Bible, about life, about so-called history, right? If you believe George Washington is the first president, you were taught wrong, right? If you believe that Abraham Lincoln was so-called white person, you were taught wrong. If you believe that the internet didn't exist until the 1990s, you were taught wrong. Like a lot of persons don't know. Just because you were allowed to use it for the first time doesn't mean it didn't exist. How you doing, Sister Monique? You said, so how do we get past the separation that is set in stone? So that's a great question, Big Roy. I'm not 100% sure if because I could go a few different ways with it, but I'm going to try to answer it like this, because I don't think separation is your problem. I think, or our problem, anybody's problem. We should be trying our best to separate from the world. From time to time, you go in it, and you're not of it. But that's not supposed to be a normal occurrence. Because when it says you're in the system but not of it, you're in the world but not of it, that's talking about we have a place designed to make sure that we're together with persons who are like-minded. So what happens for many of us is we never leave the world, and we're trying our best to always be in the world and never be of it. But the longer you're in the world, right, the longer and longer we stay in the world, we have to recognize and realize the longer we stay in the world, it gets more difficult to not be of it. And part of this world, part of this system, is based off of what? A huge part nowadays is based off of chattel slavery, racism, colorism, and then other things that were even put in place specifically for persons of certain skin color. Right? So if you're living in the United States of America, let's be honest, you're living in a place that was built upon racism. The backs of it. How you doing, Sheila? Thanks for being part of the community. It's the truth. Right? Now, how do you deal with racism and still try to be an American? If we just have an honest dialogue. How you doing, Michael? Thanks for being on with us today, and thank you all for sharing the live. Like, share, subscriptions, hit the notification tab. Those who donate, it's 5 to 10 program and stuff as well. Thank you all so much. Appreciation. Right, I'm not gonna be on too much longer. I'm actually filling in today. I wasn't supposed to come back till tomorrow, so I'll be back on tomorrow with you guys too for the live session, and hopefully you guys will join us for early rounds of Bible study session. Thanks for being on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, any other platform later on. You said it's Leviticus 5:1 saying we are supposed to snitch. Leviticus 5:1. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'm not sure. I'm gonna answer it very quickly. I gotta read it. Oh, if a soul sins, so if a nacheva sins, so if you sin and hear the voice of swearing and is a witness, whether he has seen or known it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Well, yeah, I mean, so put it like this. Once again, so even in that, right? Let's use that real quick. Let's use that real quick, right? I see the context now. Right. So, first of all, it's talking about your soul. So that's talking about not this thing we talk about, not selling your soul, doing all this stuff, etc. The nachivas, right? So it's saying this, right? If a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing and is a witness, whether he has seen or known it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. That context is specifically, that verse is specifically, if we're dealing with somebody who has lied, done something, that soul has done something. By the way, remember the word iniquity is the word achiva, which is where we get the word evil from. So basically it's saying anything that is lawless. If somebody breaks the law, remember also for sin. So if nachivash, right, so nachivash kachaselav, right, achiva. If the soul has missed the mark, if the soul has fallen short concerning the law, right, and you are aware of it, or even if you weren't there, you heard something about it, if somebody asks you about it, you should tell the truth. How you doing, Minister Raj? Right. So that's basically what it is. But even in that, when we talk about the word, I'm going to focus on the word that it was used, the word snitching, right? Think about that. if somebody's doing something wrong, and how you doing, Sister Michelle, and thank y'all for the love, and how you doing? Is it hiking? I'm not sure. H King lit. Thanks for being part of the community. So you have a lot of stuff that happens, and thank you, Minister Raj, for preaching on Saturday, and thank you, Elder Nais. No, yeah, Elder Nais as well. All right. Um, I'm just filling in for today, so I won't be on as long today. Thank you, everybody, for being on all platforms. But even with something like that, why is it that we don't? Why is it that it's so wrong to snitch, or even with snitching? Snitching, right? Really is, two of us doing the same exact thing. We said we going down together. We gonna rob a bank. I'm not saying we should, but let's give an example. Somebody said we gonna rob a bank. Okay, it's two of us. We gonna rob a bank. All right, you and I, G, we gonna rob a bank. Cool. All right. So we already said this gonna go around, this, that, whatever. If we get caught, I'm not snitching on you, and you're not snitching on me, right? Don't say nothing to the police. They're gonna try to get us in and try to get more years on us, or get more years on one person or the other, and then ultimately, really, they're gonna be playing both sides. So just don't say nothing. Now, the snitching is for those who broke the rules together, right? What has happened in society is that snitching has become something where don't tell on anybody at all if they do wrong. No, no. Even those who are in the streets, I never was, I never, even when I tried to be that hood N-word. I tried to be that YN back in the day. I never was. I hung around them. They wouldn't let me in because they said I had too much going, and I praise y'all for it now, but I was around it. So as far as what I've seen, right, the protocol was always, if we in the wrong together, then why are we going to snitch on each other, right? But now it's become, if you know that somebody in your community is offing people, don't snitch because you'll send them to jail. But don't off somebody. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That's not snitching. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not snitching. If you doing something that's crazy, like I tell persons this all the time. See, we have become so protective, and also too, they taught us because we had nothing, and so just like Deuteronomy 28 taught us, see, we got to deal with this stuff. We still carrying stuff where we don't have much, and since we don't have much, if another man has what we have, we get jealous of the man. Then we bring that jealousy home and we take it out on our wives, and then we stop taking. And then the next level is we start taking it out on our children, to where our children just repeat the process, and they become men who are jealous of each other, who mistreat their wives, and women who are so mistreated by society as well as in their home, that they just feel comfortable in certain spaces in their home. They don't even like to really go out like that, because to go out is to always have somebody ready to mistreat them. These are things that we actually have written in the Word. We know this, right? So one of the things that has happened over time is, because we've had it so bad and because we've been so mistreated, persons that do evil in our community, we lift it up because we're like, man, well, at least he got some money, even if it's for 10 years, even if it's 20 years, even if, right? Man, don't snitch on him. We be so, man, get away. We hope he get away with this. We hope he get away with that. Like OJ, even though more than likely, believe it or not, if you know this is not conspiracy theory, if you know the story of OJ, you know that OJ is the person who actually offed Nicole Brown Simpson, admitted it. He was somebody who was a serial killer. He used to kill persons who looked like Nicole Brown Simpson. He looked like, had blonde hair, blue eyes, white. He went around and he even told his family what he was going to do, and then did it and told his family he did it. Got caught and everything. Admitted it when he got caught, but they didn't ever say he was guilty of it. They tried to put it on OJ. Right? So just putting that out there, if you right, but that being said, a lot of us black folk, if we also be honest, the reason why OJ was innocent in our eyes had nothing to do with the glove. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. It had nothing to do with Johnny Cochran. It was the fact that OJ was black, even though OJ was always telling you that the old Dominican spiritual. I know black, Papi. I know black. He used to say that all the time. I'm not black. I'm OJ. Right? But then all of a sudden, he won, and then he went to church one day and he wore his Afrocentric gear, and then you ain't seen him around us since, right? Until he needed some help towards the end of his life, and then eventually started coming on that show with Mason and Cameron, right? What's the name of that show? What's the name of the show? Whatever that show is. But like we only, a lot of times we were like, oh yeah, he black, but let's say instead of going through, did he do it or not? Or some person just said he did it, and y'all should just get over it. And why y'all trying to protect him because he's black, and y'all never went through the stuff either? The reality is, we actually know who killed Nicole Brown Simpson. The guy admitted it. He's in prison. His family knew. His family told the police. And still to this day, persons won't actually just do some research and look and be like, oh, this guy was already on it. He was somebody who was there all the time. He was somebody who hung around it. He was somebody who did yard work and stuff. He was somebody who was looking at how he would have to get around the guy she was dating and all that stuff. He had all that stuff like out, and he offed her in the same manner that he offed the other women. You know, so but I'm just saying that whole thing became a thing about race, and because of both sides, the black, so-called black side, and the so-called white side, or the Republican and Democrat side, or whatever you want to put it, the person who actually killed it still hasn't been held accountable. Right? Do you want to deal? So if you want to deal with getting to a place to where that doesn't become the whole argument again, which it becomes all the time. Recently, there was a black guy, and the only thing they told you guys that was that he just randomly stabbed a white dude during a football game, or right before a football game, whatever it was, or track and field meet or something, and that became black versus white. Did you get more details? Oh, okay, it's deeper than that. But if you don't start to chisel away or break away or at least leave, right? If you won't leave the mentality that says, oh, we can't snitch, we can't look at somebody who's dealing drugs in our community and say, yo, you're wrong. We're not going to make, Denzel Washington's, character, who is a real life person, but we're not going to turn that into something that we marvel at, whether it's Training Day or, forgive me, when he played Frank Lucas? I might be wrong on that. But, when he played all these different things or whatever, we're not going to tell the truth about, like, that's wrong. Also, too, we're not going to tell the truth about, for a lot of us, if we be honest, we've been trained so much in this stuff, American Gangster, we've been trained so much in this that a lot of times, if somebody says, I don't believe you, a lot of times to get somebody to believe me, and what I'm saying, I usually go to a so-called white source. Because if I just tell you as a black person or tell you black persons say, a lot of persons, including black persons, are like, nah, you know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to hear that. But if I say, oh, well, Abraham Lincoln, even though he's actually black, but you don't look at him as black. He's Melungeon, excuse me. So he's half white, or he's part white, he's part black, and he's part Native American. So he's Melungeon. So if I tell you, but you think of him as white. So if I say Abraham Lincoln said, everybody go, oh, okay. If I tell you the law, right, legalese, if I tell you 13th Amendment says, you go, oh, okay. But if I say, we say, who shall believe our report? A lot of persons tune me out. Because why would you believe our report? Even though the Bible says, Isaiah says, who has believed our report? Yeah, women can become, and I'm sorry, I missed you earlier, women can become jealous of their children. So we don't have honest dialogue concerning this. We don't really have honest dialogue about the fact that we have so much stuff systemically, that means automatically, but also systematically, that means it was put in place on purpose, where there's a whole bunch of things that take place before decisions are made. Right? For some persons, yes, it's as simple as Donald Trump is a white president. But do you not realize that Donald Trump, first of all, like a lot of persons don't think about it, Donald Trump is somebody that even in the so-called black or African American community, whatever, supposedly Donald Trump is somebody, like if you just look back at lyrics, people used to quote lyrics. If you can quote a whole bunch of lyrics from back in the day with Donald Trump all over it. Why? Because everybody was just like, oh, he a boss because he rich. So right there, right? Who you going to serve? Elohim or Mammon? And Mammon doesn't mean money, but that's how a lot of you take it, right? So who you going to serve? It's not money that's the root of all evil, but the love of money is the root of all evil. So a lot of persons just go, well, because he makes a lot of money, he must be a successful businessman. But what does successful mean? That's success, right? Remember, you can't be a success if you don't have a successor. Okay, he's got children. Does that mean he's a success because his father was a great business success? What did his grandfather do? His grandfather was somebody who ran from Germany, didn't want to go ahead and fight for his country, came over and made his money off of prostitution and gambling, right? So that's dirty money. like the Kennedy family. They made their money off of bootlegging and stuff. That's dirty money. But a lot of persons would just go because they made money or because they got rank. They got rank in society because they literally, as the bootleggers, became so powerful that they told the government that you're going to reinstate alcoholism, right? You're going to reinstate drinking alcohol, and not only that, you're going to have it set up to where we're going to become the persons in power. That's how JFK's daddy, right? That's how John Kennedy got up in there and almost became president. Couldn't make it though, so then he set it up for his boys. And JFK made it, and then when JFK didn't make it, it was set up for RFK to make it. And if it hadn't been for that gunshot, he would have made it. But we don't think about that. Like, there's a whole system. Matter of fact, the same JFK we're talking about, his documents and stuff way before Trump got here. So it's not Trump released it, but you could read his diaries. Have you ever read JFK's diaries and what he thinks about black persons? You guys think because he let MLK march, not realizing, that he was doing something, not realizing that he let MLK march because the March on Washington originally was supposed to be something that they were going to tear down the airport. They were going to tear down any businesses that were anti-black. They were going to mess up Washington, D.C. And JFK brought Martin in and said, hey, you need to make a decision because we're gonna off all these black folks. You need to make a decision if you're going to, right? So a lot of black persons have vote Democrat to this day because of JFK, because he let black folk march. But he's probably one of the worst enemies of his family. Going back to his diary, in his diary, he tells you how Adolf Hitler is a hero and will eventually be recognized as who he really is, as a hero. So whatever you think about him and how he feels about black folk, Jewish folk, etc., he's out here with the swastika, and it's not because it's a Tibetan peace charge, right? He's out here swastika up, telling y'all need to get on the correct side of history. That's his mindset. Jimmy Carter. Yeah, but that's the mindset. So any of the Kennedys, just because they look handsome, or this other one now with the scraggly voice, whoever this one, I don't really pay attention, or Ted Kennedy and all of they were never for our people, right? But we don't want to have a conversation. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of stuff goes into this. This is why you have some black folk like a Stephen A. Smith and like who's a black girl who married the English rich tycoon, and now she's trying to be anti-Trump, all of a sudden. Candace Owens, right? This is why you get persons like that who go way, way out there, because they also might say like, hey, you know what? Well, a lot of y'all just vote how you vote because you're black, which is true. It's the voting white and black. There's a white vote, there's a black vote. They talk about there's a Hispanic vote. We need the Latino vote. How do we get the Latino vote? We need the woman vote. We'll act like this around women, but then when it comes time for men, we'll act like this around men. You guys forget, even with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was out here all of a sudden towards the end when she realized she was catching up to what she thought she was. She was out here talking about, yeah, I got a gun in my purse. And this and that. No, you don't. No, you don't. We don't live that life. But she was saying that why? Because she needed that male vote, and specifically that white male vote. So all the stuff that she said she wouldn't do, and she wouldn't compromise on, she started compromising on a lot. Hillary Clinton was out here. She went around black folk. What did she say? Oh, I keep hot sauce in my purse. Right? Like, I would have been okay if you was like, oh, okay, you keep sugar. Right? You keep this, you keep that. Right? But hot sauce. I mean, you might as well say, I keep a knife in mine. I'm like Medea. I got a 9 in mine. It's crazy. But that's what they out here doing. I'm sorry, we're losing signal. Is it that bad? Can you guys hear me and see me on TikTok? Is it bad? I don't really have too much choice today. At least where I am. It's all right, thank you. You said a Crown Royal. Yeah, but I'm just saying, so we have to deal with it. Like I said, the theme of today, just because I can see past doesn't mean I don't see. Once again, if I'm building a facility and I'm going to live in it, I build the blueprint first. Thank you, Sister Taylor. But once I build the blueprint, then I might have to demolish something to allow that building to exist. And you have to make a decision, right? Yes, racism is one of the most vile things in any way you want to put it. right? Right? That being said, you got, and look, here's the problem, is we haven't demolished anything. We say we want to build in something, but it's just a dream until you get rid of what's in the way of a building. Can I say something? Right? I've talked about this before. A lot of persons look at me because we only look at color. So a lot of persons don't realize, like, I'm a mixed race child. Now, my family, nobody is 100% anything. But that being said, my mother passed for white. If you look at her mother, you would just straight up think there was no case that she wasn't just straight up white, right? But my mother passed for white, right? My father and mother's family didn't like each other because of that. He was dark, she was light, colorism, right? Um, they loved each other. I was born, I became the black sheep of the family, still am to a certain degree, right? Like my brother and sister, praise y'all, they're not. But I was first born in this relationship. I want you guys to recognize something. I was born in 1982. I'm still a young buck, born in 1982. Okay. In certain parts of the United States of America, in the 60s and 70s, so just 10 to 20 years ago, or 10 to 20 years before my birth, in the 60s and 70s, if I was born, I would have been born a crime. You know how what's his name wrote a book? The guy who used to not the I'm sorry, black guy or well mixed race or whatever, but Trevor Noah. He wrote a book, right? A lot of y'all don't realize. A lot of you, not too long ago, not too long before you were born, you would have been considered to be a crime. Okay, it's buffering there. Okay, I'm sorry. Is it buffering real bad for you guys on TikTok? I'm not gonna be on too much longer. We might just try to fight through. Like I said, I'm only a replacement for today. No? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go with what we got. We'll probably be done somewhere between 9:30 and 9:45. Because if I go past that, I'm gonna be bad and do our normal live session. And I wasn't even supposed to be on today. And it's still my wife's born day weekend and it's family day today. We already got stuff planned out. All right. So I'm gonna make it. We're gonna make it work. TikTok is frozen. Okay. Well, we'll see what goes on with that. Thank you for letting me know. You said I'm going to cue you. For this, but oh, you keep hot sauce? No, I'm not saying you can't keep hot sauce. I'm just saying the reason why Hillary Clinton said she keeps hot sauce. You can keep whatever you want in your purse. I know sisters, especially in Southeast DC and Baltimore, they do carry a nine. They do carry a knife in they pocketbook. So I ain't tripping. It's in and out. Okay. All right. I don't know. It's telling me I got a great connection here. So we'll see. We'll see. I also know praying for y'all up there too. I know it's storming and everything again. It's crazy. We got a little bit of it, but nothing close to what y'all are getting. But where was I at? I'm sorry. Excuse me. I was saying you got to build a house, stuff that's in there. I was talking about Hillary Clinton hot sauce packets. And then I said I don't mind if you had hot sauce packets. What was I talking about? What was I talking about? What was I talking about? Holy Spirit will connect us if we need to go down that road. But Trevor Noah, thank you, Sister Sherry. Gracias, y gracias por tu presencia, siempre, mi hermano, in Cristo. So in Los Cristos, right? I might be saying that last part wrong. Anyways, but yeah, being a crime. Trevor Noah wrote a book on being a crime. And it's interesting we think about Trevor Noah because apartheid was going on. So we don't think about a lot of you are not that far removed if you were not straight up thought to be like a crime. See clearly on 285. Okay. Right? A lot of you were considered to be a crime. Right? Like a lot of you, your families had issues with how you were born because somebody was too light, too dark, whether it was full white or full black. A lot of y'all, there's a crime, and you don't think about that. Like, yeah, you might be 20 years removed from it, but there was a time. Some of your parents, some of you are old enough where you know that your parents, right? If your parents were mixed or anybody ever found out they were mixed, this is why a lot of persons who passed for white, not only did they pass for white so they can go ahead and stay in the neighborhoods they were in and say that, but they were a crime, right? Now I'm saying that, right? Now the reason I'm saying that, how you doing, Roots? Um, the reason why I'm saying all that, beloved, I want you to catch this. The reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of you are not recognizing, therefore, that you were raised by persons and you were raised around persons who knew that just a little while ago you shouldn't have existed. I'm not talking about just because you're black and blah. I'm talking about black and white folk, so-called, in a lot of parts of the country, whether officially on paper or not, we're not supposed to, to, to be in the same spaces together, let alone be having children together. And if you don't believe me, look at Richard Nixon. He hated weed. Do you know why Richard Nixon hated? And I got to be careful, I can't say that word too much because they'll try to say that I'm selling stuff. They do that all the time on here, right? Even though we don't talk about it. But look at Richard Nixon. Why did he not like that green stuff? He didn't like it because it brought hippies, considered to be so-called white persons, especially white women, and allowed black men to be in the same vicinity, and they started having children. He hated it. That was why he hated it. It was hated before because of just monetary issues. Like, you could make money off of a lot of stuff that, could be made out of that plant, right? But then it became something where, oh, it's bringing persons together. A lot of you don't know that. That's one of the reasons you have the stigma. That's why eventually you get to a say no to drugs thing, and they include that plant inside of that, because now you got the same. Now watch this. Same presidency, right? You forget that all these presidents set precedent. They all work for the same corporation. So watch this. The peace pipe. Maybe I should say peace pipe. So Richard Nixon takes on that whole anti-peace pipe philosophy from persons who were doing it against money and financial gain and persons who might make money off it. He starts saying you shouldn't do it, and because he doesn't like mixing of so-called mixed races. Then keep on flowing down. Ronald Reagan, who calls Richard Nixon while he's president, and is recorded. You can find this online, recorded, having a conversation with him, talking about, black persons, and they can't even be around here without shoes on and blah, blah. Hates black folk, right? Hates black folk. Can't stand them, right? He takes it to the next level and says, well, how do we fight? How do we fight? Well, I'm fighting an illegal war and flooding the street with dope, right? That's what Ronald Reagan did. I'm gonna flood the street with dope. He got his CIA operative / vice president, right? The one who was in charge of the CIA before he became vice president. That's who George Bush was, the first Bush. How you doing, Casey? Right? He flooded the streets, our streets, black streets specifically, because he wanted the white streets to have cocaine, but eventually they ended up dealing with dope too, right? But at first it was for us, and you were supposed to sell a watered down version, a jacked up version, a version that would make you extremely sick because it wasn't even close to being the perfect chopped up whatever. They were cooking stuff out of it, cooking it down. When you cook any food, you cook out enzymes, you do a lot of stuff, so it's already bad for somebody to be taking concentrated amounts of this. Now they're sitting up there saying we're going to give you concentrated amounts of basically non-food, right? Because when you're even having smoking, if you are somebody who smokes stuff, I've told y'all before, I'm not against it. I'm not somebody who's anti it. Just make sure you're actually having pure stuff. Like if you're somebody who's caught up on tobacco, you know that you can have tobacco without all the stuff in it. Get yourself a pipe. Get yourself a lighter 4-pipe. One strong enough that you can basically put on the edge or put upside down. Get yourself an old school wood pipe. Those are the best. Put that tobacco in there and have clear. I would suggest you eat it. But that being said, if you just have this thing you have to smoke, do it where your body's at least getting the healthiest out of it can. Technically, anything smoked up in your lungs, your body doesn't want to be on fire. So you want to be careful with how much you're doing that. That being said, if you're doing that with that or with other plants or whatever, there's other things you can do that with as well, just like you do with incense, whatever. Just make sure that you're taking care of your body, right? If the problem is not that you're doing those things. The problem is that you got all the extra stuff they're putting in there, the poisons, the rat poison, the menthol, all that stuff. That's what messing your body up. That being said, um, Ronald Reagan floods the streets with all that stuff. And then he says, we need to go ahead and arrest all the folk that are using it. So they're making money off of you buying it with your little rolled up pieces of ones and fives and sometimes a 10 in there and stuff. They're taking all that. But then after that, they're continuing because now they make money off of you in jail. And then Bill Clinton comes behind that. What does he do? 3 strikes and you're out, focusing on super predators. Who are the super predators? The same persons they're against. All right. So, and now this law, just like anything else, it might have been meant to affect one group of society, but now it's affecting everybody. Because if you don't protect one, you're not protecting any. Right? This is why in our nation, we protect Israel. We protect kingdom. Right? Anybody in Israel, we protect. If you're not Israel, we're not saying we won't give you anything, help out, but I'm not going to protect you the same way I will protect Israel. Why? Because that's my nation, that's my family. It's a different thought process. Right? That's why I'm saying nationality. But if we don't tear down the way that we think about nation, see, you think about nation like you think about America. You think about nation like you think about France. You think about nation like you think about Russia. And those nations think white first. Right? You might be thinking about nations like you're trying to think about with other nations. Yeah, there's other nations where they might think black first. We're thinking about Israel first. Now, do we shy away from what's black and white or in between or whatever, or what Israel used to look like, and therefore we can know what we look like, part of our DNA, et cetera, et cetera? We have no problem acting like that doesn't exist because we know it exists. We're not going to pretend that we should go ahead and say it doesn't matter what color Christ is, and the Bible tells you what color Christ is. And how you doing, Sister Kimberly? How you doing? Is it Z Jones? Zionist? Z Jones? I'm not sure how to pronounce that to be a part of the community. Right? But persons don't want to have that conversation. So how do you build up what you have in the blueprint, the vision, and you won't be honest? Here we go again. How do you build up the vision and you won't be honest about, well, if I'm going to build up what I envision or the vision that God's given me, I have to demolish and break ground and have to build something up there that's contrary to what's built. And yes, I might like what's behind me. I might like the things that are there. I might like the things that I've seen, but if they're getting in the way of what I've seen vision-wise, right, then it's not in my purpose. It's not in y'all's purpose. And therefore it has no value. And shalom, hello, hello. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? And thank y'all for the love and thanks for being on with us today. So this is the problem that we're having. We're not having honest dialogue. We're not having honest dialogue that we're not thinking kingdom. Matter of fact, many of you don't think kingdom because if you think kingdom, there's no such thing as voting. And I've said this before, and I don't get on y'all. I don't be coming up behind y'all and being like, when I see you post and being like, how dare you? I go on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. How crazy would that be? And every time you post something, how dare you vote? No, you have a right to choose. You have a right. You have free will. That being said, if you know you have a king, what's the point of the vote? But you don't think kingdom. See, this is more important. See, if we're going to get rid, you got to get rid of capitalism. Capitalism is a system based off of capital. That's why every state even has a what? A capital. Every country has a what? A capital. You think of the capital, and what's the capital for? It's supposed to protect the capital. The money is the most important thing. What makes us the money is where we want to be. You want to visit the capital of all these countries because that's supposed to be the place where you're supposed to see the best. But you don't want to talk about that. You can go and see the capital of Brazil. And then if you mess around, I messed around and took a wrong turn. You're going to see some whole communities where everybody's living off of 10 sheets and making a house out of it. Forgive me, I haven't talked to them in a while. A couple of our brothers in Puerto Rico, they were explaining to me, you know, how it actually works down there and how the cities work and then the outskirts of the cities and all that. And there's really like 3 main places, but then you have this and this and this and all this. And you're like, oh, I didn't know all that existed because they don't want you to know all that exists. Right? They'll tell you about Cuba and how everything was bad, but they don't want to tell you the reason why a lot of Afrocentric persons all over the world respect Fidel Castro is because he made sure that Cubans gave their blood. He gave the best of the best. He gave their basically their Green Berets is what he had fight for us when we didn't have anybody fighting. We asked the United States of America first. The United States of America said, no, you guys are fighting for freedom, so you guys are trying to have more capital than us. That's one of the reasons they got rid of Lumumba. Lumumba came to the United States of America first. And the United States of America came in with the CIA and said, no, we want you out. And so he went to Cuba. Fidel said, if y'all want freedom or whatever, I'm just trying to be, I'm anti-America. So if you anti-America, I'm anti-America. And he sent troops to fight on our behalf. Am I saying that he's the perfect martyr for us to look at and all this stuff? No, of course not. But there's honest dialogue we have to have. And nobody wants to have these conversations. And what's happening is we're being dishonest because now you're having children that are being raised and are being raised under persons like a Kai Cenat. And yes, see, this is why I said it's more infused in this. There's more stuff that's intrinsic in this than we're giving credit for. Kai Cenat is crazy work for us as a community. Kai Cenat, millions of viewers. He can have hundreds of thousands on his platform at the same time, and nobody goes away. I mean, he doing his thing. No shade. He doing his thing. That being said, Kai Cenat will come out here and tell you that there's no such thing as black persons having problems or anything like that because he's a rich young black person. And if somebody uses that as dialogue, that's like saying, we got to go on both ends. It's like a white person. Some of y'all saying, well, there's no such thing as racism because I have black friends. Or like black persons who say, I have white friends, and that makes me less racist. It's foolish. Right? Or you have somebody like, I forget his name, Aiden Ross. Right? Aiden Ross, somebody who hangs around KKK persons and alt-right persons and puts them on a show and he's young. And all these cats, they don't know any better. So when he's out here making jokes, like y'all don't know, there's this joke this running joke, if you ever hear your children say it, catch them on it, or your nieces, nephews, whatever. It's something about like Gorilla McDonald's or something like that. And it's because Aiden Ross's manager, who's extremely racist, has said it about Kai Cenat. Aiden Ross and Kai Cenat supposed to be friends, but Kai Cenat called Aiden Ross out on like, your manager is saying this stuff about me, what you gonna do? And what did Aiden Ross do? He's like, oh, he probably just joking, and then he called him out. He did call him out on stream, so he did call him out publicly, but then after his boss was like, man, I'm not trying to talk about this. I'm going, you want something? And then they started immediately saying again, something about Gorilla Big Mac or something like that. And, but children don't know that they're coming into a situation where you have alt-right persons who are already controlling Hollywood and controlling different stuff. Now they're controlling social media. And now these cats that are coming up who don't know, they're only in their 20s, just coming out being teenagers, are popular overnight, got millions of followers, they're making so much money, it's crazy. And they're now generational wealth for their family and don't realize that the persons who they sold their soul to, who they contracted out to, are anti-black. And then when you get there, it's like, what can you do about it? Unless if you want to keep making millions, you got to start being anti-black. Right? Just like there's a lot of persons. Look, Candace Owens, she's trying her best now to get back in the graces of her people to a certain degree. But, once she realized that persons were done with her and they were going to call her a monkey and all this other stuff just as much as they do everybody else, she hasn't quite shifted out of being a Republican. But now all of a sudden, she's trying to do some other things. But this is based off of a lot of stuff that's there. We're not willing to demolish or at least leave the foolishness. Right? There's something. I want to also put another thing out here too. We're starting to run out of time, so I'm gonna take my leave in a second. There's also something I want to talk to you guys about too as well, which is if you're dealing with this word that's thrown around, I think a little too liberally, remnant. Now I don't mind talking about the remnant. Wagwan Audrey, how you doing? Sorry if I didn't say shalom earlier. Right? This term called the remnant. What is the remnant? A lot of us go, the remnant is just us left here. The remnant is supposed to be those that are still in the world. We're supposed to already be separated from the world. Did you know that? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. A lot of persons are unaware of that. The remnant is supposed to be separate from the world already. It's supposed to be Israel, those who are coming to the nation already. How you doing, Jay? That's the remnant. I'm sorry, excuse me, not the remnant. Let me take that back. Excuse me. Let me rewind a little bit. The persons who are part of the woman in Revelation 12, who are part of Israel, who are part of who Christ came out of, who are supposed to be separated and in the wilderness, meaning we're not supposed to fit into civilization. We're supposed to already be living together, set apart. We're already supposed to be living together, set apart. The remnant is who the devil is after heavy, who are those who are in the world. And so a lot of us automatically attribute the devil's presence and his imp's presence to us that are not in the system. And it does say in Revelation 12, he spit the water, which represents people. So the people who hang off of every word of the Satan, they were spit towards us who were separated. And the Bible says we weren't exactly where we were supposed to be in the wilderness. However, we had the clay, right? And we were able to lift this up as a standard against those people, the water. And so the devil then took his water, took his gaze, and then put it upon the remnant. And in Revelation 13, some of you don't have a Revelation 12:18, but there's actually a Revelation 12:18, and then you get into Revelation 13:1, you will discover that the beast, or the government, right, or the governing body, comes out of the water, out of the people who come out of the Satan, out of the Satan's mouth, out of his word. So we're already supposed to be separate in the wilderness. And the remnant that's still left are supposed to be those that could come out of darkness, out of the world, into his marvelous light, into the wilderness, be separate from what they call civilization. We're supposed to be like John the Baptist. They're supposed to look at us weird. Remember, where was John the Baptist? See, John the Baptist, he could see, but also he had to leave. He couldn't just be like, oh yeah, things are better without, so I'm just going to go ahead. No, he had to see things are supposed to be without the world, even if the world has made its way into Israel. So what did he do? He left the everyday average Israelite. You recall? He left them. He was out in the woods. He was the greatest born amongst all women. He was the high priest of Israel living in the wilderness. And what did they do to our high priest? What did Israelites do? Now, it wasn't only Israelites living in Israel at the time. That being said, even some Israelites were doing what? Oh, he's not like a look at him. He's wild. He's not part of our civilization, which had become a Greco-Roman civilization more than an Israelite one. They said, no, he's not like us. He's wearing clothes that he makes himself. He's eating things that are out there in nature. He's out of pocket. He's not doing what he's supposed to. He's not righteous. He's not living how we say. But Yehoshua said he's the greatest born amongst all women. Right? So you have to realize he left the world. Even those who call themselves, that's why we have to realize not all Israel is Israel. It's about a nation. And if you think that a nation is only based upon, watch this. Every nation is based upon family, DNA, bloodline, for sure. Now also, what is family based on? Family based on marriage. What is family based on? What is this nation based on? It's based off of successors, what's coming up with the children. What is family based off? It's based off of the law. What is family based off? It's based off of a tongue, a mother tongue, if you will, right? Wherever you go, there's a nation. Every nation has a specific language. They say, this is our nation's language. You can speak different things, but we have specific language. Right? What are these nations based off of? What are the rules and regulations for male and female? We don't want to have that conversation, because if you recognize it, you're not going to get that from the world. And from a lot of persons who claim to be Israel. A lot of these so-called Israelites trying to have as many wives as they can. They out here trying to tell you, trying to use the word to tell you how they should rack up on all these wives. And a lot of y'all ain't catching it. A lot of these sisters who are out here are having relations where they undercover. But if you look at them, if you listen to them, you listen to their voice, if you listen to what they're saying, they're trying to use the word to talk about why lesbian relationships are okay. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that we just turn a blind eye to, or we let it happen, right? There's a lot of persons who outright lie or are changing doctrine or telling you what's in your Bible is not correct. Can we keep it a buck, right? We here to keep it a buck. I'm almost finished. I'm almost done. But we're going to keep it a buck, right? Let's keep it a hundo. right? If these cats is out here telling you and I that we're not supposed to live the word, they're changing the word right before us. They get mad at somebody's teaching, or they get mad at somebody, or they get frustrated, or they no longer, can get away with their BS, and so they have to start telling you something that they said they live by is something that they won't. And we make excuses. This is the part that I have. I'm not saying that somebody can't do wrong and can't be forgiven, but hear what I'm saying. There's a difference between allowing somebody to come back into a fold, and even if they do, by the way, we're supposed to still, there's supposed to be consequences for our actions, right? But that being said, what a lot of us want is when somebody does wrong nowadays, what we want to do is just say, well, I'm not taking anybody's side. Take the side of righteousness. You're talking about you're not taking anybody's side. Take your side. We allow foolishness. We allow craziness to happen. There are persons that still support Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yahweh ben Yahweh was out here forcing women and messing with these women's minds and doing things to children, have people committing murders. Some of his disciples have become the leaders of some of these groups that you follow online and can't wait to hear them preach. Yeah, they want to say, do not judge. When the Bible says if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. See, I'm not here to judge your salvation. You got to work that out for yourself anyway. But I'm not here to judge your heart, because I can't always tell you why what you did. But if you break the law, I should use the law to tell me whether you've broken it or not. And we make up so many excuses for persons that are way out of pocket. Men are out here telling you all types of wild stuff about women in this red pill generation, right? These generations of red pillars now are telling you all this foolishness, and they'll even use scripture. Somebody should immediately, hey, you can't use scripture like that. If you're going to use it holistically, because here you are cussing out women while telling women how they're supposed to act. If you can't live by it, you can't use it. We should be able to have that conversation, but we will allow cats to be wild. Hey, you're sitting up here saying that everybody in the Bible is misogynistic and blah blah and this and that. That's not what Scripture says. By the way, if you're going to do that, then don't tell anybody about Ruth, Naomi, Deborah. I'm forgetting the sister's name right now. Not Esther, not Judith. I'm forgetting somebody else right now. Or even the woman whose name is Lady, right? Who was a pastor, or Miriam, Moses' sister. Or right, like let's not have you see what I'm saying? But persons will change everything, and now the whole Bible's misogynistic. By the way, they'll go, well, Israel was allowed to have no. Israel broke the law. That being said, Yah kept his what he said to Israel's grandfather and his father, and the promise that Israel still went back to the same place and then eventually got himself in order, to the point to where how was Leah buried? Like persons miss that. This is why we got to go back to Barashat. These things are wrong, and we should call them out as wrong. What David was doing was wrong. David had consequences. What Solomon did was wrong. Did you not see the consequences of what happened to his family, our family? Right? We have to have real, show enough conversation. Right? But then also, too, if we see that some of this stuff still exists, that the Bible even declares is wrong, and if we declare it's wrong, and if we say it's misogynistic and misandrous and all this other stuff, then okay, what is the love plan? What is the action plan? And that's what we're going to start focusing on more and more. I'm not sure if it's going to be a series, but you're going to hear me saying that a lot. What is the action plan? What is the love plan? What is the goal? What are the actions you're going to take? As I've said before, and I'm not saying I do this by myself. I'm just saying, I told you guys a long time ago, I realized, especially when I was getting sick off of this stuff, I can't do everything by myself, and nobody on here should. That being said, though, we should all be dedicated. And when it's time for us to move, we should be all in. Right? Moving as if, if I only got an hour today, that hour should be all in. Right? If I only got, this much, if I got this much money or whatever, hey, if the Holy Spirit says be all in, I'm all in. If she says tithe, I'm all in. If she says offering, I'm all in. If she says make sure that you are investing in yourself, I'm all in. If she says you got study time, I'm all in. Are you all in on this? Are you ready for what comes with all this? Right? We're trying to establish and build something fresh and new. That, right, at least new to the world. That means that the stuff of the world has to be broken up or you got to leave to build. So if you're anti-racism, you got to get out of racism. And somebody says, I'm not racist. I didn't say you were. Listen to the words. If you're anti-racism, what do you have to do? You got to get out of racism. If you're in a system that's built on racism, then that can't be your system any longer. That might mean you might have to call it out, right? But you can't be in it. Yes, we can be in it, not of it. Yes, to a certain degree. But if you're in it 24 hours a day, at some point, you're going to make decisions based upon it. And as much as you want to protect your babies and your grandbabies and your great-grands, if they're in it all the time, what you think's going to happen? If they go to school and the school tells them to refer to Thomas Jefferson as a genius and as great and all this stuff, meanwhile, Thomas Jefferson, if he had seen your child, would have thought of them as being a slave or a crown. That's what they're learning. That's who they're learning from. When your child went, when you went to school and you learned geometry, I'm not saying you can't learn geometry, just hear what I'm saying. Why did they focus so hard on geometry? Do you need geometry in your life for most of you for what you do? Not saying you shouldn't know any. Hear what I'm saying? Do you need a whole geometry class? Some of y'all did geometry 1 and 2, and maybe 3. If there is such thing, I don't know because I ain't go that far. Right? But no, why did you do geometry? Because they have a Masonic ring that they wear, and on the ring it's got the protractor and the G. That harkens back to something that means a lot in their Masonic culture. It's part of their nature. Hey Shalom, I'm not sure if that's crickets in Texas or if that's another crickets that they're being on with this. Right? So I'm just saying, you have a lot of stuff in you and you don't even know where it comes from. Right? Just like a lot of people say Jesus and don't know that Jesus is coming from Yesus, and Yesus means half man, half Zeus. And if you know Pegasus is the horse of Zeus, you know Zeus is Zeus, you know Perseus is son of Zeus, Dionysus son of Zeus, etc. But if you know this stuff, then you got to be honest. It is okay. It's Bertram's wife from Texas. Yeah, that's what I didn't know for sure. Well, welcome on. Appreciate you. Right? How you doing, Xavier? By the way, thank you for being part of the community. Or Jay Xavier, not sure. Xavier, is it? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please forgive me. But I'm just saying that's the reason why they taught it to you. Not because it's something you actually need. It's because in their culture, and if you're going to bow down to the culture to a certain degree, you got to have this in you so that when you see this stuff pop up later and everything, you won't think twice about it and be like, why? If it's already been put inside of your everyday growing. Right? So if we're going to get rid of this stuff, and by the way, can I also say this? Okay, last thing. I'm. It's about to be 10 o'clock. I got to get ready for the day. I was just filling in today. I'll be back in front of you guys tomorrow. We'll see where Holy Spirit takes us tomorrow. Last thing for this, I promise. Last thing, and then enjoy your day. Thank you for being on with us. Last thing on this, I promise. It's going to be very difficult for you to be able to move out of stuff unless you realize you're moving out of stuff. That don't even sound great. It is what it is, though. It is going to be very difficult for you to move outside of a nation of thought if you don't move outside of a nation of thought. Now, I'm not even just talking about physical, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, etc. If you still think like a Floridian, you'll be a Floridian. If you still think like a Marylander or Marylander, you'll still be a Marylander. If you still think like a Californian, you'll be a Californian, right? If you still think like an Englishman, you'll be an Englishman. If you still think like Eti, you'll be Eti, right? If you still think like the world or the wicked system, you'll think like it. You and right, and such as a man thinketh, so is he. So if your mindset is about voting, that's not kingdom. So is a man thinking. So is a woman thinking. So are they. So is he. So is she. Right? If you're still trying to figure out how to make sure that you get a better president in office, so as a man thinketh, so as a woman thinketh, right? If you're not ready to evacuate even the thought process of anti-kingdom, then you're anti-kingdom. See, Antichrist, y'all keep waiting for Antichrist to be doing that whole Jack Black stuff and wearing horns and putting up, those horns and all that stuff or whatever. You're not in a position, at least not as of yet, to escape the kingdom. Remember, even Christ said when he said, "Love your neighbor with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength." I'm sorry, love Elohim with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Second, like it is this, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. On those are all the commandments. They are based upon those. And then even was asked, "Well, who is my neighbor?" And he gave the story of what we call the Good Samaritan nowadays. After all that, the guy says, "Well said, teacher, because to do what you said is better than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." And Yahashua response is somewhat chilling for many. But once you get into the kingdom, you recognize what he's saying. He said, "Great, now you are not far from the kingdom." In other words, just because you know the commandments, you got the 10 Commandments down, you recognize to love Yah, you realize that more important than burnt offerings and sacrifices is to be a living sacrifice. All that's great. He said, but that doesn't mean you're in the kingdom. Right? And the part for a lot of us is we're still trying to figure out how to be capitalist kings. Right? Capitalist kings. You're trying to be capitalist queens, so to speak. You're trying to be royalty through capitalism. And the reality is our Father, as king, owns all the cattle. On how many hills? On 1,000 of them hills. Right? You don't own, see, watch this. In capitalism, you have a false sense of ownership because you're not even free. You're not even, a lot of you are living off your all caps, artificial person. Right? It's a false kingdom. And until you have been taught about free will, or what it actually means to be private, and what it means as in private to then say, okay, once I'm in private, I can not only read a book, which the Bible is the book of books, including outside of just the 66. But a lot of us are just stuck within, reading it and then trying to figure out how do I use it to relate to capitalism still, rather than are you private enough in your mindset, your thought process, and eventually, and yes, manifesting in your everyday physical life to be able to in private be in the kingdom, because that's the goal. So we'll leave it there. Today, once again, we talked about that seeing past does not mean we cannot see. So seeing past, having a vision from Yah does not mean, right? Once again, if I'm in the car and I see past the car in front of me, it doesn't mean that if the car that I'm looking at speeds up, that then if the car in front of me just stops, I try to crash through that car because the other car speeds up. No, just because I can see the car that's speeding up doesn't mean I don't pay attention to the car that's in between us that it stops, right? And just because we know where progress lies doesn't mean that we don't realize, well, I got to get around this car first before I can get to that one, right? So if you truly want to be free of these things, you've got to deal with what's in between the vision and you. Because if not, the division not only will remain, it will just get further and further away. Amen? Amen. Prayerfully that makes sense. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being on. We solicit shalach, your petitions, your prayers, and all those great things. Thank you for being on with us. I should be back in front of you probably here again tomorrow. And I'll talk to you guys then. Thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you for the born day wishes, the Yam Yam Salahs, and all that for everybody. For the month of August, especially including Elder Alma, these last couple of days. Happy belated, even though I said something about it on Facebook, and I think I might have said something in one of the chats or the text streams or something. But happy belated anniversary to Minister Raj and Sister Taylor. I apologize. I still am terrible at even trying to begin to try and pronounce the last name, so please forgive me, Minister Raj. Hopefully you still love me. I know you do. But big up to them. Happy anniversary to you all. Love to see love continuing to move and righteousness continue to move, and them being the parents that they're supposed to be. We're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. Continue to support. I know some of us have been supporting Brother Terrence. on his live sessions. I've seen some. Don't forget Sister Carla, especially those of you who have children. She has books out that she's been putting out there. We've been trying to promote and stuff. So feel free to go ahead and support her. At some point, we're going to start using them for some SOC stuff for the baby. Um, Support Brother Domain and clothing, stuff like that. We're going to have some shirts and stuff. We're going to try to get everybody, whether you're going to be there virtually or physically, for Feast of Tabernacles. We're going to try to have some stuff for you guys, for us to be able to wear together on certain days. And we're going to work on, we're having 4 hours of power coming up in September. We might try to do something on the East Coast just for it. Brothers, I'm also going to try to have a place on the East Coast somewhere for us to meet for the men's meeting. I think that's not until November. Don't forget to check out text strains and say shalom and peace to everybody. If you want to do a brief shout out, it's a little loud out here for me to do the shout out the way we normally do, but you can feel free if you want to put your info in the chat when we finish, and others can follow suit. That way we know who we're reaching, and also somebody might be able to reach out to you ASAP. And I will be officially back on the clock tomorrow. And thank you guys for allowing me to be on in front of you and be a backup for today. Praying for Elder Tamara, keep her in prayer. Praying that the pain subside and that we be able to find out something specific and strategic to help to make sure that there's certain things she's trying to avoid, and we're praying for those things for the avoidance. So we're touching and agreeing. We hope that all is well, and we hope that you guys continue to do great things. So like I said, we'll leave this up here for now. If you guys want to do a quick on the fly shout out, thank you all again. You'll get to hear the cicadas in the background all over the place, and hopefully you guys enjoy your day. Stay safe out here, especially if you're in one of these places where it's extremely hot. We were out yesterday, and it was whew. So hopefully you guys are able, if you go out, please be careful. Please make sure that you got yourself protected. If you do need sunscreen and stuff like that, make sure that you take care and do all those things, etc. Hey, Abu, how you doing? If you're going to be racist, you got to be better than that. Just because I'm black and I have it, like, I don't look anything like him, but, you got to do better. Anyways, love y'all to life. If it wasn't for trolls, we wouldn't be here either, so we got trolls to be here. But love y'all to life. You all take care. Do great things. I'm going to go ahead and leave you at this point and take care of the fam. Hope you guys do the same and enjoy your families. And we will talk to you guys soon. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our honor and praise to my wife, the Honorable Amma. And remember, as always, beloved, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, take care. If you guys on TikTok want to do a shout out, feel free to go ahead and do so. Love you all to life. We will see you tomorrow. Prayerfully, we'll see some of you for early rise of Bible study session. All right, peace.